of concealment in a situation like this are, one, your ethics, and two, your relationship with your boss going forward. And as we like to say, choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong. And this is the harder right, and this is the way to action it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think you've said once to me, there aren't words that'll fix stupid people. And frankly, I think if you need 2 more weeks in your existing job, or you need, look, if you said, I have to leave early every day at 3:30 for the next 3 months because of my spouse's situation, or I have a child in a difficult situation, or I have an elderly person or something like that, the manager who would say, no, I can't work with that, I'd say, stupid. There's all kinds of accommodations you can make around work. It makes things harder, but we oughtn't be offering people who aren't willing to overcome something that makes things a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I'd almost say if the hiring manager rescinds the offer based on one of your family, you just had a narrow escape from somebody who isn't a great manager.
There's nothing so exhilarating as being shot at and missed.
Exactly.
Yeah, good. All right, so let's give them some examples.
Okay, so we've got three examples. So starting with one that's a medical issue. So for example, you might say, thank you so much for the offer. I'd be delighted to accept. And I've just found out that my mother is sick and I have to go to Ohio for a couple of weeks to take care of her. I can understand if that makes a difference to your offer, but I'd be happy if we can work out a start date that will work for both of us.
Yeah. I would say the one thing I might change about that is, and maybe this is British versus American, I'd be delighted to accept is not actually an acceptance. That's like people say, it's like when when I land on a plane and they say, we'd like to be the first to welcome you. Well,
you are.
Yeah, you actually are. Well, just welcome us. Don't be the person. Don't tell us what you'd like. Actually welcome us. So I would say I'm delighted to accept. That's a slight difference.
See, I think of it as I would be delighted to accept, except that I have information that you don't have, and therefore I can't until you know this information. So maybe that is a British thing the way I think about it.
Yeah, I think in this case we're saying yes, and the I'd be delighted to accept in America is I'm not accepting. On the other hand, I think it's materially interesting because I am accepting, and yet I understand that you could rescind the offer.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, let's do the next one.
Exactly.
What's the next one about?
So this one is an expectant mother. So thank you so much for the offer. I'm delighted to accept, and I've just found out that I'm expecting another child. I'm due in August, which will give me 6 months to get up to speed, and then I intend to take a month's maternity leave. I'm certain that I can minimize the disruption that this will cause.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Again, so you give the hiring manager the opportunity to say, oh, that actually August is like when stuff is going to hit and it's our busiest month and I don't know that we can cover that. Or you give them the opportunity to say, August is our busiest month and I've got 6 months to prepare for it. Thank you for telling me.
Right.
So that's a good thing. And then the final one is a professionalism one. So thank you so much for the offer. I'm delighted to accept. And the project that I'm on here will complete in 1 month. I hope that you will be able to accommodate a start date of the 7th of March.
Yeah, good.
So most people expect you in the US, I think, to give 2 weeks notice. So if you want a month, you have to say something that tells them you're not gonna be there in 2 weeks, because they have that expectation.
Yeah, and there are people who would say, accept the offer, and a couple of days later call and say. Now, look, guys, if you know at the moment you're accepting the offer that the start date has changed, then we recommend ethically, professionally, you have to say something at the time. If you know at the time you're accepting, you have to use the yes and. Because, again, you're starting the relationship, and the company is going to start all kinds of work. And if the start date, there are cases where you have to start with a new class, an incoming class of trainees or interns or whatever. And if you don't do that, if you miss that start, it may be another 2 months before they do another class. And you have to say that at the time. Otherwise, the kind of work that is going to get done is going to make their lives much more difficult. And that's just the way a lot of large companies are.
Yeah, I used to work somewhere where everybody had to start on a Monday. It didn't matter. So if you missed that Monday, you had to go to the next Monday because the people that helped you start weren't there any other day of the week.
Yeah, good. Okay, so we don't ever say yes, but if we need to make a change because there's something material on our end, we say yes and then we gave them some examples. Any final thoughts?
I think accepting offers is easy in general. You say yes, I'm delighted, or no, I'm sorry to decline. And the complications that we tangle ourselves up in normally are caused by wanting something different than we have. Now you've been offered something, and if you know that there's something materially changed in your circumstances, you have to tell the hiring manager at that point. The goodwill that you wipe off the table by not doing so is just not worth it for the relationship you're going to have for the next 4 years.
Yep. Good. Okay. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. That's another great week with Career Tools. Come back next week. See you then.